order to do that. And it's just one way that we can make sure that we're getting the students everything that they need. Let's go to this next page really quickly, which is our Unit 6 Novel Study Lesson Planning Guide. Okay, so according to the Bambrick Tutorial model, we began with our pre-planning. So this is where we're going to set a purpose for the lesson. So when we think about setting a purpose, we're thinking about the novel study itself. Why are we using a novel? What do we want to see from that? Then we'll go ahead and determine what novel we're going to use. We'll identify the genre. We'll talk about some chapter pacing, and I'll get into some more detail about that. We need to set an assessment schedule, and then we also need to determine what our assessment activity will be. And this kind of goes into the model with See It. So the See It part of this model says that we think we begin with the end in mind. So it's kind of that backwards design lesson planning. So I'll give you guys a few minutes to fill this part out. If you want to collaborate on a purpose, do we want to come up with a department type purpose for our novels? Okay.
Whatever.
Well, usually the purpose of doing a novel study is to show the students how they can dig deeper into a text than just surface reading.
Okay, so we want to do it for like a deep dive into the literature. Mindef, what were you gonna say?
I mean, I could have came up with something myself, but I was like, I feel like y'all would be more, your purpose would probably be more focused than mine, so I was gonna hear what y'all had to say first. That's why I was like, whatever y'all.
Oh, okay. But I think that's kind of what I was getting at, to deep dive into the literature. And also I want to try to help my students increase their frustration reading level, and then also increase their desire to want to read. I'm having a really hard time just getting students to read independently. So for example, my class is not doing well with AR, even with the incentives in place. And so, so one of my things is to increase reading stamina and increase students' desire to read.
The stamina is a good one. I will say that, like, with the increasing stamina and desire, I am increasingly seeing more and more 8th graders that, like, if they were to self-select a book, they want, like, Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Yeah,
I'm like, yikes.
Yeah, like they've already read it, and even the kids who I have that are participating in AR, they're just taking tests over books that they've read before. And really, these are books from elementary school that they just remember. And it's not even it's not even like, oh, we read this in 6th grade, or I got this in the library last year. It's literally 2 years ago from elementary, when they were almost like required to do AR. So it's a little discouraging.
And just so you guys know, I don't know if anybody had seen this, but the Fort Worth Report did come out with an article talking about Tarrant County as far as the amount of students that are below reading level. And of course, Fort Worth ISD only has like 26% of students that are on reading level. But they also reported that like 90-something% of parents think their kids are on reading level.
I think that's very true.
So there is a big disparagement between reality and fantasy.
Yeah.
So one good thing that we could do if we have the autonomy is to allow students to take books home for homework reading if we can. So if we have class sets, maybe allowing those students to take it home where they have to maybe bring it right back. That's always so iffy. Maybe check it out. But I think that if we are incorporating some of the reading at home, then parents are going to be able to see that these students are reading. Hopefully they can kind of jump in there and encourage them, or maybe then they can have a different perspective of where their student
Do we have any
is. On
idea?
to number 3. how do you know students are learning? So we just kind of had this conversation. So how do you know students are learning or that they are able to perform the learning standard? That kind of is going to go into kind of what we just talked about. But what do you think, Mr. Mendez? How would you determine whether your students are learning?
So like depending on the TEK or just in general?
I would say depending on the TEK, because the class that day should be focused on that learning standard.
Okay, so like my one where I was summarizing, just basically like letting them summarize it by themselves, give them 5 or 8 minutes, whatever, and then we come back together, everybody shares something that they wrote down.
Okay.
That way they can get like multiple perspectives, maybe they missed out on something that someone else caught, and then we just kind of wrap it up and I tell them what I think as well, that way they hear my point of view. And as far as the other one I wrote down was the setting one, that was something I just kept reminding them throughout the story. Where are we at? An island. So there's a lot of water around us. We're right there, like on, like, I guess like the tectonic plates are there, like in the ocean. That's where they meet most of the time.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So all that, like those natural disasters are going to be more likely to occur right there near like a border where the tectonic plates are at. So we're getting all this flooding, we're getting the earthquakes, all that stuff, and it was able to help them picture it a little bit better.
Definitely.
Especially with when they were describing the smells and stuff, like
Mhm.
the rest of Haiti compared to that little piece of heaven that they had.
Yeah.
So they were able to like pick up on that stuff.
That's good teaching, Mr. Mendez. Great teaching. Okay, write that down for us.
Okay.
Ms. Matlock, how do you know that your students are learning?
When I do random questions during reading to the class, like if we do whole class and I randomly call somebody or whatever, especially somebody who was playing and they shock me and I'm like, oh, okay.
And they're like, oh, you were listening.
You know, like that really gives me, I'm like, oh, wow. That, and then at the end, I haven't been able to get as many exit tickets as I wanted, but I have done some here or there. At the end, like if we finish the chapter early enough and I pass out something or I have them write in their journals. But the biggest way was like a week ago we were focusing on plot elements and things like that because we were already halfway through. It's a diagram thing you gave me where they sketch and reflect and then they summarize.
Yeah, kind of like that storyboard.
So I helped with the plot part, the days before that on the front page, helped with that, but they were able to take and write their own sentences on the back page, like write their own sentences for each, and we broke it down, so like maybe this day you had to summarize what was the exposition in your own words, you had to take a little bit, who's the main character, what's going on, you know, who's his main character, where he live at, what grade he in, stuff like that. Kind of set the scene of the story, what's going on a little bit. Then the next day they went into rising action. Then they did, like they were able to take just a little bit, little nuggets that we put on that and turn on the back into full sentences each day.
That's
so
right.
that helped me know too. How much are they getting? How much are they understanding? Or are they lost? You know, things like that. So I use some of it where if you took good notes, you can do the summarization. So if you jotted some notes, so some people, if they didn't do it or they blank on the other side, they blank. So they trying to re-flip through and try to remember and fill it out the best they can. That helped me a lot. But because we spent a lot of time with the reading, I haven't been able to do as many like exit tickets as I wanted. But so like the next day I might have bell ringers, like it'll be a specific question like from yesterday's chapter.
Okay.
And if you read it, you will be able to answer it. If you were absent, you're gonna have the books are there, so you're gonna have to try to scan or whatever. But you only have 5 minutes. So if you was paying attention, you'll know.
Got it.
So what did he steal at the store yesterday? You know, what did Ghost steal at the store? Something easy, you know, 1 or 2 questions. And why did he steal it? So in 2 complete sentences, you have to answer that. He stole the shoes because he, you know, he's poor and things like that, and he want to have some good track shoes, things like that.
Okay,
So
good.
kind of have it like that. The
Absolutely.
other last one is they have this packet where it has comprehension questions and things like that. So I break it up so they may not answer the questions right away after we read that day. So the next day they'll start, and if you paid attention, and it's like 2 or 3 and you have to write out in sentences. That's the other way as well. It's the comprehension question packet, and that let me know because I look at it and I'm like, you didn't read, you weren't paying attention when we read.
Right.
I read it to you. I did that.
And look, and you still weren't listening.
Yeah.
Okay, so just some feedback on that. One thing that I really like that I heard both of you say is that you are using resources that the English department has provided. So like the turn and talks, the stop and jot, like that's something that you should incorporate, just best practice. I love that you are doing exit tickets, bell ringers, even the comprehension questions that you have in the packet. So again, it's just things like resources that we've used throughout the year, and you guys are able to incorporate those into your own lesson plan, which is going to be important when you start developing that whole plan on your own. Okay, so finally, and we've kind of gotten into this too, what formative or summative assessments have you given? So Ms. Matlock, some of your examples like the exit tickets, the bell ringers, those can be considered formative assessments because we are kind of getting a gauge or kind of a temperature check on where the students are, have they read or not. So those are a couple of ways that you've given formative assessments. What are some, have you done any summatives?
So I've done quizzes, and then I've done like the summative where it's like they had to, and it was one of these documents where they had to answer, and it was for chapter 1 through 5. So that's the whole first half of the book. And they were allowed to have like their comprehension notes, but again, it wasn't graded yet, so that means they're trusting that they took good notes throughout the comprehension package. So I allowed them to have that, and I allowed them to have the book. Some of it was multiple choice for my 6th grade, but 7th grade was no multiple choice. So 7th grade, it was all, now that was my big summative one. I said 1 through 6, I'm thinking ago, sorry, that's 6th grade. 7th grade, it was chapter 1 through 7.
Okay.
So it was the first 7 chapters of the book. So they had to answer, it was 12 questions. And they had to, those that had the laptops, type out everything. And then those that didn't have a laptop, they had to handwrite and fill it out. So, and some of it had where you had to use text evidence, like say page, whatever, site, things like that.
Good idea.
So that one was like my big summative. The quizzes are shorter,
So
but they still have to do shorter response.
Okay.
Like maybe they were like 5 or 6 questions. But
Good.
those were practice to the big one with the 12 questions over multiple chapters.
And I think that you're getting a lot of buy-in from your students with your comprehension packet, because like you're saying, they have to kind of trust themselves to take good notes because they know that they can use that information when it's time to take an assessment. And so as a student, that would give me buy-in to say, okay, I really need to be doing this because this would have helped me on the summative test or on the quiz or whatnot. So great practices. Make sure you write that information down.
And I keep getting the mix, but Ghost is the 6th grade, Swallowing Stones is my 7th grade.
I got you. All right, Mendes, how are you, what formative or summative assessments have you given?
So similar to her, like I would do exit tickets, like some would be just basic comprehension, others would be like inferencing or giving their opinion on topics or situations that are arising in the book. I was giving out quizzes at the end of each part to make sure they're understanding what they just read before they even move on to that second chapter, because it doesn't have chapters, it just has the parts.
Parts, yeah.
And then just graphic organizers all throughout.
Great.
That way they can be writing down information and it's not just a bunch of words on a paper.
Yes,
They
yes.
know what is being written where. There's like a purpose for where they're writing it at. And then I think that's it.
I think it's really sufficient.
Oh, and then notes, like she said. I let them take notes too, and if they could use it on the test.
Okay.
And then also on the test, the last 10 minutes, if they're working the whole time quietly and I don't have to tell anybody focus, I let them use the book the last 10 minutes.
Okay, nice. Yeah, definitely good. Best practices, like I hear best practices from both of you guys. Definitely we want to make sure that we are giving some type of formative assessment each day. Those are your notes, those are your comprehension questions, those are your, okay, we're gonna stop and now we're gonna have a group discussion. That is a form of a formative assessment. So the formative assessments are just those quick check-ins to see, like you're saying, are they understanding what they read before we move on to the next thing? Then you have your summative assessment. That's gonna cover kind of a holistic view of the chapter or of the book, right? There you can start getting into themes that have been expressed. There is where your setting comes in, because that setting is important throughout the entire story.
Yeah.
So, your summative assessment is more like this holistic view.